I really like the Erwin Schrödinger quote, "The total number of minds in the universe is one." And also, Atman equals Brahman, but I'm probably not using that right, and I prefer to explain what I think more explicitly rather than rely on other people's associations, so I'll just do that. There is only one mind in the universe, to me, just means that consciousness is a property of the universe. It's like combustion in that it just happens whenever and wherever it can, and its uniqueness is in its initial conditions and the environment it interacts with. Of course, it doesn't work to say there is only one flame in the universe, but I use the analogy because nobody has a problem with the idea that flame is just a phenomenon. But each of our flames of consciousness feels pretty distinct to us. It's hard to argue that I'm not you and you're not me, but I like to say we're both just different versions of I. Of course, that sounds solipsist because I is me when I say it, and I'm the one writing, but I means more than me to me. I is really a whole continuum of I-ness. At one end is a unit system of biologically active materials that feels things and at least thinks it thinks things, and at the other end is the universal phenomenon of self aware consciousness. Let's call them lower I and upper I, respectively. It's a first person plural, but it's distinct from we because there's only one upper I, and all lower I's are the same upper I. Upper I might share some features that others might identify as a soul, but if it's a soul, it's more accurate to say it's the soul of the universe. It's the part of consciousness that is the universe trying to understand itself. I like that description because it's both functional and aspirational. Even if you're using your consciousness to understand how to eat all the chocolate you can, it's still kind of true. And I like to think it's most true when you're trying to understand physics and consciousness, but that feels arrogant and elitist. So it's good to remember that it is just as true if you're trying to understand the digestive system of cockroaches or how to teach little humans how to wash their hands and tie their shoes. Of course, you can do all that for 1,000 motivations. It's not like everyone who studies the universe walks around thinking, I am the universe's brain all the time or anything. It's a continuum for everyone every minute of every day. Nobody stays upper I for very long. I think that might even apply to alien consciousnesses. Being lower I is pretty demanding, and I just think there's some truth to the idea. That consciousness has some intrinsic curiosity, and that's a thing that really does connect all minds. So, what good is all that? Well, you can have fun with it if you use it to imagine that you might get to be everything and everyone, I guess. I'm not psyched about all the shitty human lifetimes, but if it's a universal, then it means aliens too. So I might get to be a giant alien worm person that uses its cilia to perform on some thousand-toned musical instrument. And I also get to be their backup band and their fans, and maybe some giant beetle thing that eats the whole band in a tragic on-stage accident. But I don't think it's useful except for fun. It's not parallel reincarnation or anything like that. There's obviously no physical connection between the minds of the giant worm and the band and the beetle that could, join as a universal mind to understand all their experiences. That's a seductive idea, and it would be the only way that, to make some kind of comparative analysis of experience itself, any kind of judgment. But I just don't think that's a thing. There is no great mind in the sense that it knows us or our experience just because we are all it, any more than, a cell knows me because I'm it, or I know a cell because I'm it. Even if we just say a great mind, doesn't exist on this plane, say it exists in some fifth dimensional space and the connections are invisible to us because we exist on a lower dimension or something, it still doesn't work. Even if we're all just data in a giant simulation that could be reprocessed, it doesn't work because the experience of upper I through a lower I is a kind of atomic unit. It cannot be anything but what it is without becoming something else entirely. There's no way to know what it's like to be a bat as a human. Even if you could somehow force the neural information from a bat's experience through your mind and for a moment forget that you were a human, when you woke up from that from that experience, your memory of that experience would be as a human analyzing their human memory of being a bat. You would recall the experience only through your human recollection with human faculties. If you could truly share the experience of batness with your human consciousness, you might be overwhelmingly compelled to eat bugs and hang upside down, but you can't. It doesn't work like that. You cannot share the experience of a mind. It is a totally isolated phenomenon by its very nature. I just wanted to be clear that this is not an edge to work in like a new age philosophy or of oneness or anything. It's a perspective that accepts the fundamentally isolated state of self-aware consciousness, but tries to put a more entertaining spin on it and maybe derive a functional framework for morality from it. This all seems related to the idea of karma, but to me, karma is just an expression of the natural symmetry of the fact that in this arrangement, we all experience everything we do to one another because all conscious experience is fundamentally the same phenomenon. And it seems like the idea that all minds have a similar basis of experience is a pretty decent rationalization, maybe even a justification for empathy and compassion. Not that we should, really need all that to understand reciprocity, but it helps take it beyond human culture and lifetime, maybe even to AI and work for aliens if we meet any. It takes a theory of mind out on a limb a bit, but I think that's where it belongs. It's probably a good idea just to say minds are minds and humans happen to have them. And if we find anything that looks remotely like a human mind, it gets the same status. So we avoid any robot uprisings over sentient beings' rights or any of that. If we get wiped out by a machine life, I'd really prefer that it was because they actually were evil or indifferent to human life, not because we actually deserved it.